Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Estonia once again to continue on with the Estonian mini-series that you're going to see over the next couple of weeks and months. For this review we are going to return to a brewery that I first introduced to you on the channel back in 2016, and it's definitely cool to return to these guys after quite some time. So for this review then we are going to go to a little place called Keila, which is to the southwest of Tallinn, the capital city, still in Harjumaa county actually, and we're having a taste of another beer from Lehe Pruulikoda. So this particular beer is called the Harassment by IPA. It comes in at 13% ABV, and this one is a triple IPA. Now I have actually tried this beer before. I tried this one at Harjumaa, which is a bar that's associated with this brewery, and you'll see why when we go through the history section of the video, but I know this one is a very nice beer, quite a west coasty leaning triple IPA this one, but I think it should be a really nice one to do as a kind of dedicated review. And it would be nice to try it again with a sort of fresh palate, if you like, because I did a couple of tastings when I was trying this one as well. And you will actually see an out and about video for Harjumaa appear at some point very soon. It is edited together, I just need to decide when to publish it, so you can look forward to that as well as a few other out and about videos that I filmed when I was in Estonia, so keep your eyes peeled for those. But yeah, very nice to return to Lehe Pruulikoda after such a long time. I do have a few other beers from these guys to review. It seems that they specialise in very high alcohol stuff, but you will see, I think, another 3 or 4 reviews actually from Lehe Pruulikoda, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, I know this is a good beer and definitely looking forward to trying it with a fresh palate as such. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Lehe Pruulikoda before. Like I said, you will see some more beers added to that in the near future, and I do hope that I can continue to add more regularly over time. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Estonian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's going to be added to very regularly over the next few months, and I hope that that can continue indefinitely as well, because the Estonian beers are pretty damn good in my experience. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Lehe Pruulikoda then. So as I've mentioned to you already, this brewery is from a little place called Keila in Harjumaa county in Estonia, which is to the southwest of Tallinn in the northwestern part of the country. So yeah, it's meant to be a very beautiful little town actually, somewhere that I never got to check out, but I think we actually went past it on the way to my friend Einar's wedding. I'm not sure about that. But the brewery itself was founded back in 2013 by Tarmo and Krista Tali. Family business if you like, but Tarmo had worked in the IT industry for a number of years, and he'd also homebrewed, while Grisel had a background in business and was very interested to try her skills out with a new type of business. During his homebrewing days though, Tarmo was really interested in craft beer because of all the different yeast strains and malts and hops and things that could be used. It was really, just basically playing with the ingredients that he enjoyed. But apparently he was constantly asked by friends when his beers would be available in bars and shops, and this really made him want to brew professionally. So he says that the beers that they brew at the brewery are the ones that they would just kind of like to drink themselves. So they're based in an industrial estate in Keila, and they've gradually built up the brewery over the last few years, and it now has a total capacity of around 300,000 litres of beer per year, but I believe they don't use all of the capacity that they actually have. But in 2019, Tarmo and Grisel decided that they wanted to withdraw from the company and return to the IT and business industries, and so they sold the company to RampantLionReviews, who is the owner of Harjumaa in Tallinn. And this was founded back in 2014, and since 2017 they've also brewed their own beers as a gypsy brewery, and I think they were producing somewhere in the region of about 100,000 litres of beer per year, if I remember correctly. So yeah, you will see more of the Harjumaa beers brewed at the Lehe facility, if you like, and the brewery are continuing to do very well, and of course there will be no change, from what I understand, to the to the beers that already existed under the Lehe Pruulikoda name, if you like. But yeah, as of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 134 different kinds of beer, which is pretty impressive for a brewery that's been around 7 years, I have to say. What does that work out as? Maybe about 20, just roughly about 20 beers per year. So yeah, pretty impressive output, and from what I saw in Harjumaa, a lot of the beers that these guys are producing are very kind of high alcohol beasts. There was a lot of imperial stouts there, a lot of imperial sours and things like that, barley wines, you know, you name it on the high alcohol side of things, and Lehe have done it actually. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Lehe Pruulikoda for the moment. The last beer that I tried from these guys was one of their Christmas releases, which came over to Sweden. As part of one of the Tillfällig assortments, of course, and that one, was it called Star Bear or something like that? I remember it had a blue and black label, and I'm pretty sure it was either an Imperial Porter or an Imperial Stout, but yeah, Christmas release beer nonetheless. But yeah, as I say, that's all I can really tell you about Lehe Pruulikoda for the moment. If you want to learn more about them, of course, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So I'll let you just have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. So as you can see, it is pretty cool actually, this sort of plastic wrap kind of thing. There are a few of their beers actually have that, which is pretty cool. But yeah, there are a few in this Harassment series from what I understand. I did see Harassment by Barley Wine. I can't remember what other ones there were, but Harassment by Barley Wine was one that I definitely did see. There you can see the Lehe Pruulikoda bottle cap on this one. It has this symbol. There seems to be an association here, the Estonian Craft Beer Club. You can see that. The Eesti Käsitiolu, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Probably not, because Estonian is a very difficult language. And there you can see, there is the Lehe Pruulikoda symbol actually. So yeah, really nicely presented beer. This one, I have to say, I do like the artwork that it has. And yeah, should be pretty cool. So the Paldiski industrial estate these guys are from. But yeah, 13% triple IPA this one, 60 IBUs apparently, so yeah, should be pretty cool. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see how this beer turns out, one from the bottle and two with a fresh palate. But I remember liking this one, but I know that this is a big heavy beer, so this is one of these kind of sippers for the rest of the evening definitely. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. So yeah, look at this, lovely. So yeah, as you can see and as you would expect from an IPA, this one has poured, I would say, a lovely, it actually looks a lot hazier than it did on tap, I have to say, but nowhere near as hazy as you might expect from a full-on New England IPA. So if we shine the light through this one, it does have a little bit of haze to it, but it's got a lovely kind of medium amber colour to it. So maybe it's fairer to say it's got a light amber colour. You can see there's about a quarter finger of a frothy kind of creamy coloured head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but I mean overall it does look pretty nice and pretty much what you would expect from an IPA. So yeah, I do like how this goes together. It looks very, very nice. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. It should be very, very nice from what I remember. Ooh, yeah. So from the aroma, I think I said at the time when I tried this, I thought there was a bit of Simcoe and maybe Mosaic in this one, or maybe Amarillo. I think this one, it strikes me on the aroma as being fairly kind of old school, but it's really got that, as you quite often get with the higher alcohol beers, it really has a very kind of sort of sultana-y, jammy kind of thing. You really get that quite often. These kind of dried fruity notes, you get that quite often with the very high alcohol West Coast IPAs. Sometimes get it with the New Englands in fairness as well, but yeah, the aroma of this one I think is very, very nice. So yeah, the fruits are what you're going to notice straight away with this one. So yeah, it's got a lovely kind of sultana note, like I said. It's got a bit of a kind of dried apricot-y, fruity kind of thing to it. And there's a wee bit of mango coming out of it. You do get a bit of that kind of softer passion fruity note. I really do suspect there's a bit of Simcoe in this one. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a wee bit of Citra as well. I think Citra and Simcoe and you know, it's got a good orangey element to it as well. So that's either got to be, I think the brightness of the oranges would suggest mosaic rather than Amarillo. But with the booziness, it does come across as quite oily. The fruits in this one generally are quite bright and they come across as quite sharp, whereas maybe in this beer, or in a triple IPA like this, you might expect them to just be a little touch more oily. And I remember thinking on the tap that they did come out a little bit more, so maybe the bottling condition, the bottle conditioning or whatever, does change this one a little bit. But that said, let's have a wee look. Yeah, there is a wee bit of sediment to this one, so you know it is, you know, it is a bottle conditioned beer. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, the aroma of this one, in terms of fruitiness, is nice. And in fairness to it as well, the more and more you smell of this, the oilier it does become. So it's maybe just the kind of initial shock on the nose, if you like, but then your nose will saturate a little bit. But yeah, the aroma of that on the fruity side of things, it's lovely and oily, but at the same time it retains a bit of juiciness. Good balance between the tropical fruits, the passion fruit, the mangoes. There is definitely a bit of an apricot-y, dried fruity kind of jam note to this one. And then you've got the quite bright tangerine oranges coming out of it as well. But yeah, the aroma on that fruity side of things is really nice. On the green side of the hops, you do get a good little bit of grassiness out of this one, but you can detect that kind of big floral aromaticity that you're going to get from this. And if it is the hops that I think it is that's in this, I always like playing guess the hops with these beers, as you'll know if you watch the channel. But yeah, all of the hops that are likely to be used in this one are very high alpha acid hops. You know, Simcoe's about 11 or 12%, Citra is usually about 13, 14, and Mosaic I think roughly sits around the 14 mark as well. So yeah, big high alpha acid notes. So it's not surprising you've got quite a big kind of floral aromatic-y note coming out of the beer. But yeah, it smells really nice. It's almost got a little bit of a kind of medicinally type quality to it. So yeah, that is pretty nice. So yeah, on the malty side of things then, I think we've kind of covered the hoppy side of it really. There's a little touch of earthiness to it as well, but other than that, I think the hops are fairly covered. So yeah, nice kind of smooth, bready base to it. It does give the impression actually of of some kind of oats and things, but it just says barley and wheat malt. But it does, yeah, that would kind of explain, I guess, you know, it's got a little bit of the smoothness to it. So you know, that the way the smoothness that this beer has in the malt base, that most likely is the wheat then. It does almost smell a bit oaty. If I didn't know there wasn't oats in it from the bottle, I would have thought there was just a little bit of oatiness in it. But I will say, from the last time that I tasted this, I know that this is more West Coasty leaning. But yeah, it's got a lovely kind of mix in it here. As I say, you've got a good bit of a white bready quality to it. You can smell at the back of the nose that it is quite thick. You've got a big kind of oily sweet caramel coming out of it as well. A little bit of a kind of biscuity quality, and you've also got a wee bit of that kind of Werther's Originally oily note to this one as well, which is kind of interesting. I do suspect that Werther's Originally note that I've been kind of picking up in beers recently, I do start to suspect now that it is due to the kind of wheat and one of the types of wheat that they're using. But yeah, you get lots of different kinds of wheated malt and things like that as well. Some of them slightly sweeter, some of them slightly smoother, some of them a bit more spicy and things. But yeah, I find that quite a few of them, it must be one of the malts, it's one of the barley malts, and when you mix this together with the wheat, it gives you that almost Werther's Originally kind of oily flavour and aroma actually. So yeah, the malt base in this one does come across, does have a few kind of New Englandish elements to it, but yeah, the brown sugars, the sweet caramel that's there, the kind of Werther's Originally type note, and there's the wee bit of biscuit that comes out as well, the McVitie's biscuit sort of thing. These kind of elements that come out of this one really give you the impression of a kind of West Coast beer, but it really has a kind of medicinally, cough syrupy type element to it as well, which is nice. So yeah, definitely take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck into it. There's some really interesting things going on, but yeah, let's have a taste of this now and just and see how we get on. So yeah, this one is the Harassment by IPA, a 13% triple IPA from Lehe Pruulikoda in Keila, Harjumaa County, in the northwest of Estonia. Then let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål, Terby 6. Yeah, it's pretty solid. Yeah, lovely. Big oily beast this one, as I remember. You know, sometimes triple IPAs can be you know, overload and things like that. You know, I have had triple IPAs that are like 10.5, 11%. This kind of percentage, and you think, yeah, 13%, it is going to be a bit of a monster, but it actually drinks, you know, really quite nicely. This one, it gets a thumbs up from me. I remember enjoying this one, as I say, in Harjumaa, and in the bottle, it's just as enjoyable actually. I find it maybe a little bit not quite as wet actually in the bottle than I do in the Untappd. It did have a nice kind of wetness to it. It's definitely a bit more oily and sticky almost coming out from the bottle. But yeah, nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So yeah, where to start with this one then? So let's try and break down the flavour a little bit. So right across the middle of the palate, you get that, you do get a little bit of that kind of, you can feel the sort of smoothness of the wheat. It feels a little bit lighter in the middle of the palate, but you really do start to feel it kind of thickening up the further you go into the aftertaste of the beer. If you go to the back third of the tongue, you really can feel quite a thick but smooth white bready character coming out of the beer. As you move further forward on it, there's in the middle of the palate, it does get a little bit more complexity to it. Sitting in the centre of the palate, it's almost like you've got kind of a little island of that sort of oily, you've got a nice sort of oily, kind of Werther's Originally type flavour coming out of the beer here, which is nice. So yeah, that Werther's Originally kind of note sits on top of the wheaty character. In the very, very centre of the tongue, you've got a nice, really rich, sweet caramel there. As you move further out from that, you do get a little bit more of a kind of biscuity quality coming out of it, which is great. It's almost a little bit like a kind of McVitie's digestive there, but the whole middle of your palate, it does have, you know, you can detect a bit of the booziness there, and it does have that kind of cough syrupy, medicinally type vibe to it, which is quite interesting. I hesitate to say phenol, but it wouldn't surprise me if there is some kind of slightly phenolic compound in here actually. You know, it's really, it's nice actually. I do like how that goes together. So yeah, the malt base in this one, you can detect the booziness when you take it in. The booziness, you'll notice that straight away. It does have a wee bit of the boozy warmth to it, but the sweetness that the beer has really covers it up very, very well, and the smoothness of the wheat really does part of that job as well. So yeah, the malt base on this one, I find it quite straightforward. But it does its job very, very nicely, I have to say. So yeah, big, as I say, very big kind of smooth wheaty notes towards the back of the palate. This one, interestingly, does still have a teeny little bit of a wheaty spice, I think, in the back third of the tongue. But as you come further forward, as I say, lighter wheat base, that kind of Werther's Originally oily quality sitting there, sweet caramel sitting in the middle on top of that, then a bit of a biscuity vibe sitting on top of the of that kind of Werther's Originally island as well. If you go to the front corners of your palate and move kind of diagonally back, you might pick up one or two tiny elements of a slightly woody undertone to the beer. But otherwise, I think it comes across, you know, really it comes across very, very nicely. Nothing wrong with the woody element. As I'm saying, came out wrong. Yeah, it's happened sometimes. But yeah, the malt base in this, quite, you know, remarkably straightforward for such a big beer, but it really does work in my opinion. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there, which to me suggests Mosaic. Could be wrong on that, right enough, but I do think there is, I think Mosaic is quite likely in this one, I have to say. But yeah, as you come further forward along the side of the palate, the earthiness does fade away quite quickly and the beer smoothens out quite a lot, but at the front corners of the palate you do get a nice little bit of that big spicy floral aromaticity to this one. And you know, a beer like this, it does have to be balanced with the IBUs, and it's 60 IBUs. I mean, it's not, you know, it's a good bit less when you compare it to the old school West Coast IPAs, which would be 70, 80 and things like this, but it needs at least, you know, 60 IBUs I think is a good mark for this one, because you want the beer to be big and oily and sweet at the same time. So the 60 IBUs I think works quite well for this one. But yeah, the flavour that you get out of this beer is pretty damn nice, 100% sure about that. But yeah, around the very front curve of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of a lighter kind of grassy element to the beer, and on the front third of the tongue, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters start to to push their way out of the beer. So if you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, you have got a wee bit of a darker kind of passion fruity note coming out of it. As you move further forward, you do get a wee bit of a kind of there is a kind of sultana underlying to the tropical side of the beer, but you start to get mangoes, you start to get a wee bit of a kind of apricot-y type thing. There's maybe a very soft, there's maybe a wee touch of pineapple to it as well actually. There is that kind of very bright kind of pineapple flavour there, but it all sits on top of that this kind of sultana, sort of dried sultana type base there, which is quite nice actually. And as you get onto the very kind of tip of your tongue, it's almost like you've got almost another wee kind of island there, and you get that the slightly more oily and citrusy, orangey notes out of the beer. And I mean, the beer on the orangey side of things, it does have the oily levels of Amarillo. And I could be tempted to say there's a bit of Amarillo in here because of that. It's maybe got a mixture of Amarillo and Mosaic, to be honest with you, but the orangey flavours come across as quite bright and tangerine-y, and that's what you'd normally expect from Mosaic. The other possibility that this one could be, when it's got a wee touch of pineapple flavour, could be Azaka. But there's something that tells me that this might be one of their older beers actually. I've got a feeling that this beer might have been around for a couple of years, and I think it's more likely that it's a less sort of wacky, less unusual hop profile that's in this one. I would want to say it's maybe Citra, Simcoe and Mosaic that's in this. I think it's something like that. It does have the impression of being a little bit more kind of old school, but the fruits come out really, really nicely in this one, I have to say. But yeah, just behind the front tip of the palate, like I said, you get a wee oily bubble, and that's where the kind of oily part of the beer that lingers there is the bright sort of tangerine oranges there. So the oranges come out really nicely, but yeah, on the very tip of your tongue you can feel the grassy esters there, and there is a wee bit of a kind of zestiness to that as well. But yeah, in terms of the flavour, as a triple IPA, this is really nice. It's very, very smooth. At the same time, it maintains a good oiliness to it, and the fruits also have a really good balance between being oily and quite juicy, and the sweetness that you get out of the malt base in this is also very nice, and it's just got the right level of bitterness to it as well. So I think this is a really nice creation from Lehe Pruulikoda. So thumbs up to them for this. I heard that there's a Harassment by Barley Wine. I didn't see that one, but I would love to try that anyway. But this is the one, it just kind of struck me when I tried it in the bar, and I thought, yeah, I want to do a review of that one, a proper kind of sit-down review, and now here we are. So yeah, let's look at the mouthfeel of this one then. I think we've covered the flavour, we've covered the flavour plenty for this one. So yeah, on the how do you say, on the mouthfeel side of things then, I'd say that this is at the bottom end of full-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth. It's got a big oily mouthfeel, but at the same time it does have a little bit of that kind of almost Nordic cleanliness to it. It does feel very clean in its mouthfeel, this beer. At the same time, the water quality, you can tell on this one is pretty damn pure actually, which is nice. But yeah, the water quality you get out of this is really very, very nice. On the hoppy side of things, as we know, it is 60 IBUs. Would I guess that? I actually probably would have guessed it would be about 50 or something. I probably would have thought it was a little bit less than 60 if I was blind tasting it. But yeah, like I said, the malt base has a good level of smoothness to it. It does get thicker and a little bit more oily the further you go into it, but it really leans towards the sweet side of things, which is quite nice. This is definitely one of the sweeter triple IPAs that I've come across, and the fruits are look really nice and oily. They do get more and more oily the more that you drink of this beer actually. So yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me, this one. The Harassment by IPA, triple IPA, 13%. It drinks very, very nicely. It's definitely a sipper. And one that you probably should share with a friend tonight. I'm not sharing this one with a friend, this is just a sipper for me, but yeah, it's definitely been nice to do a kind of fresh palate review of this one, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed my take on this beer. And very nice to return to Lehe Pruulikoda after such a long time. When I was in Harjumaa, they had a really interesting variety of different beers there. I was only able to pick up a couple of them actually, but yeah, this one was this one was just one that I tried and thought was really good. So yeah, you will see maybe 3 other reviews from Lehe Pruulikoda, but I hope in the future I can review some other ones. They had some really interesting looking sour beers and stuff like that, so we'll just need to see. But I do plan on going back to Estonia soon, and you will definitely see some more Lehe beers in the more distant future as well. That's definitely going to be sorted out. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This was a nice reintroduction to Lehe Pruulikoda, the Harassment by IPA, a 13% triple IPA, leaning more towards the west coast side of things, from Lehe Pruulikoda in Keila, Harjumaa County in the northwest of Tallinn. So yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Lehe Pruulikoda as well. As I said, you will see a few more reviews from these guys over the coming months. And I hope that I can do more reviews from these guys very regularly, because I have been impressed by the quality of beers that I've had from them so far. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Lehe Pruulikoda, and check out the Harassment by IPA if you get the chance. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, Skull, Terbisex. Make sure you check out Harassment by IPA, 13% triple IPA, and it's lovely, sweet, big, oily and fruity. Terbisex.